Hey, North Shore Pump, the United States housing market continues to cool down, but is that what we're seeing in our hyperlocal market? We'll break that down today in your September market update. What is going on, party people? My name is Chris Elliott. I'm a local realtor, Wyndham resident, over 550 home sales under my belt since 2013, right here in Central Virginia. And in this video today, what we're gonna do is we're gonna break down what we're actually seeing, not just in the United States housing market, not just in the Metro Richmond housing market, but what we're seeing hyper locally here in North Shore Pump. Let's get into it. All right, you may have heard, hopefully this is not a urgent news flash for you, COVID is over. If you're still wearing your mask, you could probably go ahead and take that off. I think the CDC would agree with me. What that means, though, is that the power dynamics between buyers and sellers has shifted on a national basis. We are more so in a buyer's market than we were in a seller's market during the boom. You may have seen this graphic that broke the internet. Not really, just kind of circulated around the socials. For us that follow housing, Redfin estimated that in the United States housing market, we approximately have 500,000 more sellers in the market currently than there are buyers. Really not even sure how they collect or kind of estimate that information, but one would deduct from this that we're very much in a buyer's market, which is true in a lot of markets in the United States, but isn't necessarily true in our North Shore Pump market. And I'm going to share with you a quote that Lance Lambert, co-founder of Resi Club, put out recently, because I've been getting a lot of calls, texts, emails, casual conversations with friends in the neighborhood, wondering, what's going on in the housing market. And I love what Lance said. He said, since the national pandemic housing boom fizzled out in 2022, the national power dynamic has slowly been shifting from sellers to buyers. Here's the kicker. Of course, across the country, that shift has varied significantly, and our local market is no different. I'm happy to report a much different experience here in North Shore Pump. As you can see from this graphic, we certainly have seen a deceleration of prices. And for my folks that went to public school, that just means that home price growth is slowing down, but it is continuing to grow. We're currently at 1.2% year-over-year appreciation. This time, last year in 2024, we were 8% year-over-year appreciation. So once again, that growth has decelerated or slowed down, but we are still seeing appreciation versus depreciation. Once again, folks, home prices are still going up as opposed to going down, which is the good news. And I feel like we share this every single month on the market update, but I think it's still relevant because I still have people wondering. Our average days on market is still 10 days in North Shore Pump. On average, home sellers are getting 99.3% in North Shore Pump of their asking prices. So in the grand scheme of things, we're still in a very healthy market. We're still in a very hot market. We're still very much in a seller's market in North Shore Pump. Now, the other thing that a lot of people will ask me about is mortgage rates. And we've definitely seen some downward movement in mortgage rates recently. At the time of this recording in late August, we're sitting at approximately 6.5% on a 30-year par interest rate, which is down from the highs of 7% that we saw earlier this year. Where we go from here is kind of, I think everybody's wondering. So I know you probably study the housing market and have your own predictions, but the smart folks at Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, Wells Fargo put out their projections for where we were going through Q4 of 2026. And as you can see from the graphic, everybody's predicting that we're more or less going to be staying kind of where we are. The most ambitious projection, or the most optimistic projection, I will say, at least for me, is from Fannie Mae, predict that we'll get down to 6% by the end of 2024, 50 basis points. It's still not a lot of downward movement from where we are currently. So you might be sitting there watching on your device, your YouTube, your social, wherever you're seeing this, wondering to yourself, hey Chris, this all sounds good, but what does this mean for me? Well, here's the advice that we're currently giving to our seller clients as well as to our buyer clients. For our sellers, number one, TikTok. If you are somebody that is looking to sell your home this year, I would encourage you to get your home on the market sooner rather than later. We are returning to a normalized seasonal Richmond selling market, in that what we see historically is that we see the activity in the housing market kind of gradually slow down as the year ends. So we just see that activity kind of taper down from September to December. So if you're somebody that's looking to make the most of your home sale, I would encourage you to get your home on the market this month or next month, because you're gonna more likely fare better in September, October than you would November, December. And then secondly, there is less margin for error on pricing this time of year. So if you're going to be listing your home, I'm encouraging you to get the price right, because if you don't get the price right when you first list it, there's a good chance you're gonna be making a price reduction in a much slower market in, once again, November, December, as opposed to where we're at right now. Or it could just mean the difference that your home just doesn't sell. If if you overprice your home, and then even if you make a price reduction later in the year, the home could simply just sit because the market does slow down once again in the winter months. For my buyers, if you're somebody that's waiting for mortgage rates to drop before you purchase a home, I hope you packed a lunch. Once again, as you saw in the graphic, all of the smart folks that track this data that have economic departments are not predicting any wild movement downward in mortgage rates. They're more or less going to be staying the same as home prices continue to appreciate. So if you're somebody that's kind of sidelining yourself, realize you could be waiting for